Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and every screen you own displays the same emergency alert. All laws suspended for 24 hours starting midnight tonight. All crime legal. All consequences void. Emergency services unavailable. Proceed with extreme caution. Your first instinct is disbelief. This has to be a hack. Misinformation. Some elaborate hoax. But then the president appears on every channel, visibly shaken, confirming the impossible. For exactly 24 hours, from midnight tonight until midnight tomorrow, every law ceases to exist. Murder, theft, assault, arson, everything. Legal. No police response, no arrests, no consequences, no protection. This is the question humanity has whispered about for centuries. The thought experiment philosophers debate. The scenario movies explore. But what would actually happen? Not the Hollywood version with masked killers and systematic violence. The real version. The messy, complicated, terrifying reality of human nature without constraints. Let's explore exactly what would happen if everything became legal for 24 hours. Not the fantasy. The truth. The immediate reaction. The announcement goes out at 6 a.m. on an ordinary Tuesday. Within seconds, society begins fracturing along predictable and unpredictable lines. The response isn't uniform, it's chaos. Pure, unfiltered chaos of 8 billion individual reactions happening simultaneously. The first emotion is disbelief. Surely this isn't real. Surely someone hacked the emergency broadcast system. Surely this is a test, a mistake, a glitch in the system. But as minutes tick by and every news outlet confirms the same impossible message, reality begins settling in like ice water. This is real. This is happening. 18 hours until midnight. 18 hours to prepare for the complete collapse of social order. The human response splits immediately into distinct psychological categories, though few people fit neatly into just one. Understanding these categories is crucial to understanding what happens next. The first group, comprising roughly 10 to 15% of the population, immediately begins planning exploitation. These are people who've been constrained by laws their entire lives. They have grudges, they have desires, they have targets. Laws were the only barrier. Now that barrier is dissolving. They're not evil necessarily. They're human. Angry humans, desperate humans, opportunistic humans, but humans who've been waiting for this moment, consciously or not. The second group, about 20%, experiences immediate existential terror. These are the vulnerable populations, the elderly who can't defend themselves, the disabled who can't flee, single parents with young children, people in dangerous neighborhoods, people without resources or mobility. They know instinctively they're prey. They know they're exposed. They know 18 hours isn't enough time to become safe. Their terror is rational and immediate. The third group, perhaps 30%, shifts into fortress mentality. They're not planning to attack anyone. They're not helpless. They're preparing to defend, board windows, stockpile supplies, acquire weapons if possible, create defensible positions. Their psychology is purely defensive. Survive the night, protect family. Wait for dawn, simple, focused, survival. The fourth group, another 20%, immediately attempts flight. Get out of cities, get to rural areas, get to relatives in small towns, get anywhere that's not dense urban environment. The logic is sound. Fewer people means fewer threats. Rural areas have always been statistically safer. During a purge, that gap would widen catastrophically. But everyone has the same logic. Within 2 hours, every highway becomes a parking lot. Flights ground, trains stop. There's nowhere to go that everyone else isn't also trying to reach. The remaining 15 to 20% does something unexpected. They organize to help. They check on vulnerable neighbors. They create community defense networks. They prepare to protect people who can't protect themselves. This group represents humanity's best impulses activating in crisis. They're not heroes. They're just people choosing compassion over self-interest when both are options. They're rarer than we'd like, more common than cynics believe, but these percentages are meaningless in aggregate. What matters is your specific circumstances, your specific block, your specific building, because the purge isn't uniform, it's hyperlocal. What happens depends entirely on the micro-community you're trapped in for the next 30 hours. Within 3 hours of the announcement, the internet becomes simultaneously the most valuable and most dangerous tool available. Social media explodes with contradictory information, advice, threats, and desperate pleas. Half the content is dark humor, coping mechanism, gallows jokes. Finally going to tear those mattress tags off. Time to jaywalk with pride. Gonna return stuff without receipts. The comedy masks terror, making light of horror to process the unprocessable. The other half is genuine panic and tactical planning. Advice threads multiply. Best ways to fortify doors. How to make improvised weapons. Where to hide if you can't defend. Everyone suddenly believes they're survival experts. Most advice is terrible. Some is dangerous. But people are desperate for any information that might increase survival odds by even 1%. Simultaneously, a darker dynamic emerges. People posting threats. Anyone comes near my house gets shot. I'm armed and waiting. These posts serve dual purposes. They're warnings meant to deter, but they're also signals. Broadcasting that you have weapons means broadcasting that you have something worth stealing. Broadcasting your location means painting a target. Smart people go dark immediately. Delete accounts. Disable location services. Become digital ghosts. Don't advertise resources. Don't reveal positions. Become invisible. By noon, 6 hours after the announcement, the first major systems start failing. Not because of violence, because of abandonment. People whose jobs are to maintain infrastructure are going home. Power plant operators, water treatment workers, transportation workers, they have families, they have homes to fortify. They're not staying at work when laws don't exist. Why would they? Some critical infrastructure maintains operation. Hospitals don't empty completely. Some medical workers stay. Not all, not even most, but some. The ones who took oaths seriously. The ones who can't abandon patients even when abandoning them is legal and rational. These people are saints or fools depending on perspective. Probably both. The power grid remains mostly functional because it's largely automated, but monitoring decreases. Response to problems decreases. If something breaks, it stays broken. Same with water. Same with internet infrastructure. For 24 hours, what exists keeps working until it doesn't. Then it just stops. The preparation phase. Between noon and midnight, 18 hours of preparation time, human nature reveals itself in stark relief. This is where every social inequality becomes visible, where every advantage and disadvantage matters, where the gap between wealthy and poor becomes a chasm between survival and death. The stores experience immediate and total collapse. Not violent initially, just overwhelmed. Everyone needs supplies simultaneously. Everyone has the same idea. Get to the store, get necessities, get home, hunker down. Gun stores sell out within the first hour. Every firearm, every bullet, every piece of tactical gear. Lines wrap around buildings. Wait times stretch to hours. People who've never touched guns buying AR-15s. People who swore they'd never own weapons reconsidering everything when survival becomes uncertain. Second Amendment debates end instantly when everyone wants guns simultaneously. But here's what's fascinating and tragic. Gun stores in wealthy neighborhoods sell out to wealthy people who'll use them for defense behind fortified walls. Gun stores in poor neighborhoods sell out to people who might use them for defense or offense. Same tools, different contexts, different outcomes. The weapons don't care about intention, they just equalize force temporarily. Hardware stores experience similar runs. Chains, locks, boards, nails, screws, power tools. Anything useful for fortification? Home improvement stores look like disaster zones. Shelves bare, aisles destroyed. People fighting over last supplies, not violently yet, just desperately, pushing, shoving, grabbing. The veneer of civilization already cracking 12 hours before the official start. Grocery stores see panic buying that makes pandemic hoarding look quaint. Every shelf emptied, not just food, medicine, baby formula, diapers, batteries, anything consumable or useful, shopping carts overflowing, people taking far more than they need, hoarding from instinct and fear, rationality disappearing under survival pressure. Store workers face impossible choices: stay and maintain order for no pay with no legal backing, or abandon post and protect themselves. Most choose self-preservation. Who can blame them? Some stay. Usually managers with ownership stake. Usually people who feel responsibility to community. They try to maintain order, limit purchases, create fairness, without legal authority, without police backup, just moral authority. Sometimes it works. Usually it doesn't. But here's what's interesting. Some stores remain completely untouched during preparation. Small neighborhood stores, family-owned businesses, local pharmacies. Why? Because communities recognize they'll need these places tomorrow, next week, next month, after laws return. There's an unspoken calculation. Destroy this store today, suffer tomorrow. Protect it today, benefit later. Not everyone makes this calculation. Enough do that some infrastructure survives. The wealthy respond to preparation completely differently. They're not standing in lines at gun stores. They're hiring private military contractors, actual mercenaries, former special forces, professional security. Within hours, every private security company in the country is completely booked. Rates skyrocket. $10,000 for 12 hours, $50,000 for a team, $100,000 for military-grade protection with equipment and tactics. Gated communities transform into actual military installations, electric fences activated, armed patrols established, perimeters secured, guard towers erected. Some neighborhoods pool resources, create collective security, pay for professional protection as a group, creating safe zones for those who can afford entry. The inequality becomes obscene. Wealthy families spending more on one night's security than poor families earn in a year. Rich buying safety, poor forced into desperation. Middle-class families depleting savings for protection they might not need, or choosing not to spend and risking everything. The calculus is impossible. How do you price safety? How do you value life? How do you make these decisions with incomplete information and terror clouding judgment? Consider 2 apartment buildings 5 blocks apart in the same city. Building A is luxury apartments. Average rent $4,000 monthly. Building management springs into action immediately. Private security hired within 3 hours. Building locked down. Reinforced entry points. Armed guards in lobby. Supplies distributed to every unit. Water, food, first aid. Residents receive detailed instructions. Lock doors. Stay inside. Don't leave until laws return. Everything organized. Everything provided. Everything controlled. Building B is rent-controlled apartments. Average rent $800 monthly. No building management, no budget for security, no organization. Residents are completely on their own. Some have guns, most don't. Some have supplies, most don't. Some have somewhere else to go, most don't. They try to organize, knock on doors, create group chats, plan watch rotations, pool resources, but it's chaotic. Desperate. Grassroots organization in the face of systemic abandonment. Same crisis. 5 blocks apart. Completely different resources. Completely different preparation. Completely different odds of survival. The purge doesn't create inequality. It reveals inequality. It magnifies inequality. It makes inequality visible in a way that's impossible to ignore or rationalize. By 3 p.m., 9 hours before midnight, the highways become impassable. Everyone trying to flee cities creates total gridlock. Cars backed up for miles, nobody moving, people running out of gas, abandoning vehicles, walking with luggage and children, nowhere to go. No services available along routes, just movement for movement's sake. The illusion of action in the face of helplessness. Airports shut down completely. All flights cancelled. Too dangerous for crews, too risky for operations. Air traffic control goes home. Pilots refuse to fly. The skies go silent except for a few private jets. The ultra-wealthy fleeing to islands, to compounds, to places where average people don't have access. using wealth to create physical distance from danger, leaving everyone else behind. Trains stop, buses stop, subways stop. All public transportation ceases operation. Operators go home. Systems shut down. The infrastructure that moves millions of people daily grinds to complete halt. Everyone's trapped wherever they are when they realize they should leave. By 6 p.m., 6 hours before midnight, cities take on surreal appearance. Half the buildings are completely dark, evacuated, abandoned. People fled to homes, to fortified positions, to anywhere that feels defensible. Streets empty, windows boarded, doors barricaded. The urban landscape transforms into something post-apocalyptic. The other half of buildings blaze with activity. Not everyone's hiding. Some people are preparing to exploit, organizing groups, planning targets, coordinating attacks. The people who see this as opportunity rather than threat, they're gathering, planning, waiting for midnight. 2 different parties happen simultaneously on this evening. In wealthy neighborhoods, rooftop gatherings, champagne, music, treating this like New Year's Eve with an edge, protected by private security below, insulated from consequences above. The Purge as entertainment for those who can afford safety, looking down on the city, watching the chaos they're not part of, voyeurs of their own species' potential collapse. In poorer neighborhoods, different gatherings, community meetings, block organizations, defense planning, resource sharing, not celebration, survival strategy. These people know they're exposed, know they're vulnerable, know they need each other, creating makeshift alliances, choosing neighbors as family for one night because blood family might not be close enough or available enough or capable enough. The psychology varies wildly across populations. Some people are genuinely excited, finally get to break rules, finally get to take what they want, finally get to do what laws prevented. They're counting down, eager, ready. These are the minority, but they're vocal, dangerous, motivated. Others are absolutely terrified, checking locks compulsively, holding weapons they barely know how to use, sitting in dark rooms with racing hearts, hoping to be invisible, hoping to survive, just survive. Nothing more ambitious than dawn. Most people are exhausted, been awake since 6 a.m. announcement, 18 hours of stress and preparation, running on adrenaline and fear and desperation, making impossible decisions under impossible pressure. Every choice might be life or death. Every mistake might be fatal. The weight is crushing. There's a thought experiment that plays out in millions of households. The vulnerable neighbor, the elderly person who can't defend themselves, the single parent who's terrified, the disabled person who can't flee. They need help, food, water, protection, sanctuary. Do you help? You should. It's moral. It's right. It's human. But if you share your supplies, do you have enough? If you let them into your safe space, are you compromising your family's security? If you help one, can you help all? Where does obligation end? Where does self-preservation begin? These questions don't have clean answers. People make different choices. Most help, some don't. Everyone judges themselves harshly for whichever choice they make. By 10 p.m., 2 hours before midnight, the streets are completely empty. Every house goes dark or gets fortified. It's like the apocalypse already happened, except it hasn't. Everyone's waiting, watching clocks, counting down. Parents try to explain to children what's happening. Try to make it less scary, fail miserably. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that for one night people might try to hurt them, that laws won't protect them, that they need to be silent and hidden? There's no good way. Parents do their best. Kids understand more than they articulate. The fear is contagious. Elderly people living alone make peace with mortality. Some write letters, some call family, some pray. They know they're vulnerable, know they probably can't defend themselves, know they might not see morning. The acceptance is heartbreaking and profound. This is humanity facing its own mortality without filters. 1 hour left, 60 minutes. The countdown is everywhere, on phones, on screens, in minds. Some people are praying, different faiths, same prayer. Please let this end. Please let us survive. Please let morning come. Desperate pleas to whatever might be listening. Some people are loading weapons, checking ammunition, preparing for battle they hope doesn't come, just in case, just to be ready, just to have chance if worst happens. Some people are crying, overwhelmed by fear, by pressure, by unfairness, by the sheer horrifying reality that for one night they're completely unprotected. Law dissolves and they're naked before the worst of humanity. 30 minutes, 20, 10, 5. The world holds its breath. 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. All laws suspended. Everything is legal. What happens next is the question that defines human nature. The first hour of chaos. Midnight arrives and the first 10 minutes are eerily silent. Almost nothing happens. It's like everyone's waiting for someone else to go first. Like everyone's testing whether this is real, whether consequences truly disappeared. The streets remain empty. Houses remain dark. Even people who talked confidently all day are suddenly hesitant. Because talking about breaking laws is profoundly different from actually breaking them. Fantasy is different from reality. The gap between I would do that and actually doing it is enormous. Most people discover they can't cross it, not easily, not without hesitation. But at 12:14 a.m., somewhere in Los Angeles, a window shatters. Luxury car dealership, group of people, faces covered, breakthrough, steal high-end vehicles, drive off into the night. Nobody stops them. No alarms matter, no police respond, no consequences exist. That single broken window is permission, signal flare, green light. Within 20 minutes, every major city erupts simultaneously. But it's not random chaos, it's targeted, specific, planned. People have been thinking about this for 18 hours. They know what they want, where to get it, how to get it. The violence is purposeful. The first targets are predictable. Luxury retail stores, high-end electronics, jewelry stores, expensive goods that are easy to carry and hard to trace, smash and grab operations, quick, efficient, professional, people taking what they can carry, loading bags, loading vehicles, disappearing into darkness, but it's simultaneously personal. That restaurant that fired someone unjustly, windows smashed, furniture destroyed, that landlord who raised rent during pandemic, property vandalized, spray painted, destroyed. That business owner who was racist to employees, shop looted, burned, erased. This isn't random violence. It's accumulated resentment, years of anger finding expression, grudges settled, grievances aired through destruction. The purge becomes pressure release valve for social frustrations that legal systems fail to address. Every unpunished wrong, every ignored complaint, every dismissed claim, all of it manifesting now. Simultaneously, defensive operations activate. The neighborhoods that organize during preparation implement plans. Watch rotations begin. Patrols start. Visible presence without violence. Deterrence through solidarity. Groups of people on every corner, not attacking, just standing, just showing force, just making it clear. Not here. Not tonight. Find easier targets. This strategy is remarkably effective. Most criminals are opportunistic. They're not committed to specific targets. They're looking for easy scores, low resistance, quick wins. When they encounter organized opposition, they move on. Find undefended areas. Find isolated targets. Find vulnerable people. By 1 a.m., clear patterns emerge. The violence isn't evenly distributed. It's highly concentrated. Specific areas get hit catastrophically hard. Other areas remain relatively calm. The variable is social cohesion, organization, leadership, trust. Neighborhoods with strong existing communities fare dramatically better. People who knew each other before protect each other now. Mutual aid networks activate. Resource sharing happens naturally. Collective defense forms organically. These communities suffer less, not because they have more resources, because they have more connection. Neighborhoods without social bonds collapse faster. Everyone's alone. Every house is an island. No coordination, no mutual support, no collective anything. Just isolated people trying to survive independently. Many won't. The vulnerability of isolation becomes fatal. The looting intensifies between 1 and 2 a.m. Stores get emptied, not just luxury goods now, everything, grocery stores, pharmacies, gas stations, clothing stores, people taking whatever they can, not always for value, sometimes just because they can. The thrill of taking without consequences, the power of doing forbidden things without punishment. But interestingly, not all stores get touched. Local pharmacies in residential areas often remain untouched. Small family businesses sometimes survive. Why? Because communities recognize future value. Destroy the pharmacy today, have no access to medicine tomorrow. Destroy the local store today, have nowhere to shop next week. Some people can't think past tonight. Others calculate future costs. That calculation saves some infrastructure. The violence becomes personal around 2 a.m., not looting stores, targeting people. Domestic abusers get visited by victims who've been terrorized for years. Corrupt bosses get confronted by employees they exploited. Criminals eliminate rivals. Old grudges get settled permanently. This is the dark side of human nature without constraints. Revenge, pure revenge, sometimes justified, always brutal. But here's what matters. For every person committing violence, there are multiple people defending against violence. For every home getting invaded, there are multiple communities successfully repelling invaders. For every store getting looted, there are multiple neighborhoods protecting local businesses. The ratio matters. Humans aren't uniformly destructive, we're distributed. Most toward cooperation, some toward conflict. Enough conflict to create chaos. Enough cooperation to create pockets of safety. By 3 a.m., the first casualties mount. People who didn't prepare. People who were isolated. People who were unlucky. Some deaths are targeted. Planned murders. Eliminations. Some are random. Wrong place. Wrong time. Some are defensive. Home invasions gone wrong. Intruders killed by defenders. The body count rises, but not as dramatically as movies suggest. Not mass slaughter. Targeted violence, specific deaths, tragic but not apocalyptic. Simultaneously, incredible acts of courage manifest. Communities protecting vulnerable members, neighbors defending neighbors, strangers helping strangers. Humanity's best impulses activating in darkness. Not everyone, not everywhere, but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to save lives. Enough to maintain some faith in human decency. The exhaustion becomes a factor by 3 a.m. People have been awake for 24 hours, running on adrenaline, on fear, on desperation. Now the crash comes. Mistakes multiply. Judgment falters. Desperation increases. The violence becomes sloppier, less calculated, more dangerous because it's less controlled. Smart criminals who planned carefully finished their work in the first hour, got what they wanted, went home. Now they're hiding. Creating alibis, waiting for dawn. They'll get away with it. They were surgical, professional, smart. Dumb criminals are still operating at 3 a.m., still visible, still active. These are the ones acting on impulse, on emotion, on desperation, without planning. They're making mistakes, leaving evidence, creating witnesses. When laws return, these are the ones who'll face social consequences. Not legal prosecution, social exile, community rejection, permanent stains on reputation. The darkest hours. Between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., the nature of the night shifts. The opportunists are mostly done. The planners have executed their strategies. Now comes something darker. The true predators. People who weren't waiting for specific targets. They just wanted chaos, wanted power, wanted to inflict harm for its own sake. This is the portion most difficult to discuss because it's the most disturbing, because it reveals the edges of human darkness that civilization usually contains, because it's real and horrifying and happens in every crisis when constraints disappear. Organized crime uses these hours strategically. Cartels, gangs, syndicates. They've been planning this for weeks, if not longer, using these hours to reshape criminal landscapes, eliminate competition, consolidate territory, resolve disputes. The violence is professional, efficient, brutal. Warehouses where rival factions meet. Not all participants leave. By dawn, the criminal underworld looks different. Some organizations cease to exist, others emerge stronger. The purge is business opportunity for those who profit from violence. But there's also the unorganized darkness. Predators seeking victims, abusers hunting targets, people who were always dangerous but restrained by legal consequences. Tonight, they're unrestrained, and vulnerable people suffer. This is the hardest reality. The most tragic, the most unfair. Evil acting without opposition. This is balanced against defensive violence that becomes offense. Victims fighting back against people who terrorized them for years. No legal consequences means no worry about excessive force. Just fighting back, just surviving, just ending threats permanently. Is this justice? Is this murder? The line is impossible to draw. Context matters, history matters. But at 4 a.m. with adrenaline and fear and desperation, context disappears. There's only survival or death. Fires start proliferating around 4 a.m. Arson, multiple motivations, some strategic, destroying evidence of crimes committed, eliminating buildings that represent systemic oppression, courthouses where unjust verdicts were delivered, police stations where brutality was ignored, government buildings that failed communities, targeted destruction of institutional symbols. Some fires are pure chaos. Bored people, drunk people, people who want to watch things burn because destruction feels like power when you've always been powerless. Random buildings ignite, residential structures, small businesses, historical landmarks, irreplaceable things burning because someone wanted to see flames. Firefighters face impossible choices. Respond to calls and risk lives in lawless environment, or stay safe and let things burn. Most fire stations remain closed. Firefighters have families, have survival instincts. They're not legally obligated to risk death. Most choose safety. But some crews mobilize anyway, not because they have to, because people need help, because buildings burning means people dying, because someone has to try, even when it's not required. Even when it's dangerous, even when there's no legal protection. They save some structures, lose some firefighters, heroes in darkness that nobody required or expected. They chose it anyway. Meanwhile, wealthy enclaves remain fortified fortresses, private security earning every dollar, armed patrols, surveillance systems active, lethal force authorized. Anyone approaching gets warned once, anyone persisting gets shot. Questions don't exist. Hesitation doesn't exist. Just protection through overwhelming force. The rich remain safe. The poor remain exposed. Same pattern as always. Just more visible now. More honest about what money buys. There's a moment around 5 a.m. Dawn approaching. Some people who've been hiding emerge briefly, checking on neighbors, looking for survivors, offering help. These are humanity's best. People who even in chaos, even in danger, even in darkness, choose compassion, choose community, choose to help rather than hide. They're rare, but they exist. They matter. They save lives. They maintain hope. One clear pattern emerges through the dark hours. Communities with pre-existing trust maintain that trust under pressure. Communities without trust can't manufacture it in crisis. Crisis reveals what existed before, amplifies what existed before. Doesn't create new social structures, just tests existing ones. Strong communities band together, protect vulnerable members, share resources, survive collectively. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. They lose people, but they persist. They endure. They maintain human connection in dehumanizing circumstances. Weak communities fragment completely. Every person alone, every family isolated. Higher casualties, more trauma, less resilience. Survival becomes random chance rather than strategic cooperation. Some make it, many don't. The difference is luck more than planning. By 6 a.m. the sun starts rising. Daylight changes everything. The cover of darkness disappears. Actions become visible. Faces become identifiable. Even without immediate legal consequences, social consequences loom larger in daylight. Anonymity ends, accountability approaches. The violence doesn't stop, but it slows. People start thinking about tomorrow, about living in these same neighborhoods when laws return, about facing these same people in daylight, about reputations and relationships, and the reality that tonight ends, but tomorrow continues. Smart criminals finish their work in darkness. Now they're invisible, creating alibis, establishing distance from crimes. They use the night strategically. They'll probably get away with it, socially if not legally. Dumb criminals continue operating in daylight, still visible, still making noise, still creating witnesses. These are the ones social consequences will destroy. Not legal prosecution necessarily, but community rejection, social exile, permanent marking as someone who revealed their true nature when constraints disappeared. The morning reckoning. By 8 a.m., 6 hours after midnight, exhaustion overwhelms everything else. People have been awake for more than 24 hours, running on adrenaline and terror and desperation. Now bodies and minds crash simultaneously. Vigilance falters, defenses weaken, judgment fails. The danger increases not because threats intensify, but because defenders can't maintain alertness. People start sleeping. In fortified homes, in basements, in groups where some maintain watch while others collapse. The violence continues, but quality degrades. Tired criminals make mistakes, leave evidence, get caught in traps. Tired defenders miss threats, make errors, suffer consequences. Exhaustion becomes more dangerous than malice. But sunrise brings something else, clarity. The psychological fog of fear and adrenaline lifts slightly. People start processing what happened, what they did, what they witnessed, what they survived. The emotional reckoning begins even before the legal purge ends. People who stole things are now sitting with stolen goods. The thrill is gone. Reality sets in. That luxury car can't be registered, can't be driven openly, can't be enjoyed. It's evidence, it's risk, it's hollow victory that requires hiding. The satisfaction of taking disappears when you can't use what you took. People who took revenge are sitting with the weight of their actions. Yes, the person deserved it. Yes, it felt justified. Yes, circumstances warranted it. But you still did it. You're still the person who did that thing. That identity doesn't disappear with dawn. That knowledge doesn't fade. Even justified violence changes you. Even necessary cruelty carries psychological cost. People who defended themselves successfully are processing the trauma of what defense required, even when it was right, even when there was no choice, even when it saved lives. Killing changes you, hurting changes you, even in self-defense, even righteously. The weight remains. By noon, 6 hours until the end, strange phenomena emerge in some areas. Not all, not most, but some. Community, real community. Not just defense anymore, connection. Neighborhoods that survive together start eating together, sharing food, grilling, making tea, processing collectively, trauma bonding, crisis creating intimacy that didn't exist before. People who barely knew each other 12 hours ago now know each other's fears, courage, character. They've seen each other at worst and best. They've depended on each other for survival. That creates bonds, deep bonds. Not everywhere, not with everyone, but enough to matter. There's recognition in these moments. This community could have existed before, should have existed before. Crisis made it necessary, but it could be chosen, could continue, could be something built rather than something forced. Some neighborhoods will maintain these bonds, others will let them dissolve. The difference is choice. Meanwhile, other areas are still burning. Still fighting, still destroying. The contrast is stark. Same city, same crisis, completely different outcomes. The variable is social capital, trust, leadership, organization, pre-existing community strength. Places with strong foundations survive better. Places with weak social bonds collapse completely. Crisis doesn't create strength. It reveals strength that already existed or didn't. The countdown becomes different now. Not when does the purge start, but when does it end. 6 hours left, then 5, then 4. Survival shifts from active defense to passive endurance. Just make it to midnight. Just survive. Nothing more ambitious than continued existence. People who plan to exploit the full 24 hours start reconsidering. Every passing hour increases risk, increases chance of identification, increases future consequences, even if legal consequences remain void. The smart ones stopped early, got what they wanted, disappeared. The desperate ones keep going, keep taking risks, keep creating evidence. They'll regret it. The final countdown. Between 6 p.m. and midnight on that terrible day, something unexpected happens in many places. Violence actually decreases, not everywhere, but more locations than anticipated. Why? Because people start thinking about tomorrow, about the world that exists after midnight, about who they want to be when this ends. The psychology shifts fundamentally. Those final 6 hours aren't opportunity anymore. They're risk. Every action is potential evidence, potential social consequence, potential damage to future self. The calculus changes from what can I get away with to who do I want to be when this is over. People standing outside stores they could rob, houses they could invade, people they could hurt. They're reconsidering. I could do this, but then I'm that person. Forever. Even if I'm not legally that person, I'll know I am that person. Do I want that identity? Many choose their future over their present. Walk away from crimes they could commit. Choose becoming someone they can live with, rather than acting on impulses they can't undo. Not everyone makes this choice. Some people have nothing to lose. No future to protect. No reputation to maintain. No community to face. These are the most dangerous people in these final hours, because consequences don't exist for them. Not legal, not social. Nothing matters because nothing ever mattered. Their violence continues. Their chaos persists. They'll use every minute available. There's also last-minute desperation. People who need something urgently. Medicine for sick children. Food for starving family. Money for survival. Not greed, necessity. These are sympathetic criminals. Stealing baby formula. Stealing insulin. Stealing things that should be human rights, but are locked behind paywalls. Their crimes are technically equal to others, morally different. Context matters even when law doesn't acknowledge it. By 9 p.m., 3 hours remaining, 2 types of gatherings happen simultaneously. In wealthy neighborhoods, parties continue, perhaps even intensify, celebrating survival, toasting to making it through, champagne, music, laughter. They were never in real danger. They treated this as entertainment. Now they celebrate their own safety purchased with money. The disconnect is obscene but predictable. In other areas, quieter gatherings, exhausted people, traumatized people, survivors supporting each other, processing together. No celebration, just relief, just connection, just human beings who endured something horrible together, sitting in silence, holding hands, crying. These are the people who will carry this forever, who will be changed permanently, who will never forget what they saw, what they did, what they survived. By 11 p.m., 1 hour remaining, the countdown begins again. 60 minutes until laws return, until consequences exist, until society restarts. The tension is unbearable. So close to safety, so close to ending, but 60 minutes is eternity when you're waiting. Some last-minute chaos erupts. People who waited, who planned specifically for the final hour. One last crime before time expires. Smash and grabs. Quick violence. Desperate attempts to use remaining minutes productively, if you can call destruction productive. Someone tries to rob jewelry store at 11:35. Smashes through. Grabs what he can carry. Runs. 25 minutes of freedom remain. After that, he's a criminal again. Regular criminal, prosecutable criminal. He thinks 25 minutes is enough to get away, to disappear, to become invisible. His getaway vehicle runs out of gas at 11:47. 13 minutes left. He's stuck, trapped, abandons loot, abandons plan, runs on foot, not for profit anymore. Just escape. Just trying to get somewhere safe before midnight, before he transforms from legal actor to criminal again. At 11:55, 5 minutes remaining, he's collapsed in an alley, gasping, watching his phone, watching countdown. The jewelry sits where he dropped it, His freedom sits where he lost it. 4 minutes, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. Laws reinstated. It's over. The immediate reaction is relief. Overwhelming relief, survival. Made it. Lived. The worst is over. Laws exist again. Police will respond again. Emergency services function again. Society exists again. The relief is physical, emotional, spiritual, profound. But relief is temporary. What comes next is reckoning. The aftermath. Dawn rises on a fundamentally changed world. Technically everything's normal. Laws exist. Police work. Courts function. Emergency services respond. Society operates. But nothing's normal. Nothing will be normal again. The change isn't physical. It's psychological, social, moral, permanent. The physical damage is extensive but repairable. Broken windows everywhere. Burned buildings. Looted stores. Graffiti covering walls. Blood-staining sidewalks. Cities look like war zones. Some areas worse than others. Wealthy neighborhoods mostly intact. Poor neighborhoods devastated. The inequality that existed before is now carved into urban landscapes, visible, undeniable, impossible to ignore or rationalize. But physical damage can be fixed. Money can rebuild. Insurance can replace. Time can repair. The real damage is invisible. The psychological scars, the social fractures, the moral questions, these can't be rebuilt with construction crews, can't be replaced with insurance payouts, can't be repaired with time. They're permanent. Everyone knows what happened. Everyone saw what neighbors did, who helped and who hurt, who shared and who hoarded, who stayed and who ran, who protected and who exploited. That knowledge is permanent. Those memories don't fade. Those revelations can't be unseen. Think about living next door to someone. You saw them looting, or worse, they saw you watching. Both of you know. Both of you remember. Both of you have to face each other every day. Wave hello, make small talk, pretend that night didn't reveal everything. How do you do that? How do you pretend? Most people can't. Most relationships don't survive. Most neighborhoods never recover their previous innocence. Some people move immediately, can't live with the memories, can't face the neighbors, can't reconcile who people were before with what they revealed during. The exodus from certain neighborhoods is immediate and devastating. Property values collapse, communities fragment. What existed before the purge can never be reconstructed. Others try to rebuild, try to forgive, try to understand that crisis brings out extremes, that pressure reveals unexpected things, that one night doesn't define lifetime. It's noble, it's hard. Most attempts fail, some succeed. The ones that succeed create something new, not restoration, transformation. Communities bonded by shared survival, connected by mutual knowledge of worst moments. These bonds are strong, different, built on truth rather than comfortable assumptions. The courts face impossible situations, thousands of cases, people who committed crimes during the purge. Or did they? It was legal, but was it moral? How do you prosecute legal wrongs? How do you punish actions that weren't crimes when committed? The legal frameworks don't exist. Lawyers argue, philosophers debate, judges struggle. The ethics are impossible. Most cases get dismissed. The precedent becomes, the law cannot punish what it temporarily allowed. We must live with consequences without legal recourse. It's unsatisfying. It's incomplete. It's the only option. You can't retroactively criminalize legal actions. You can't punish people for doing what the law said they could do, but legal justice failing doesn't mean justice fails completely. Social justice emerges, community justice. People who revealed themselves during the purge face social consequences, not legal prosecution, social exile, community rejection, lost jobs, lost relationships, lost standing. Their neighbors know what they did. Their communities remember. They're marked permanently, not legally, socially, forever. Others become heroes, people who helped, who defended, who protected. Their communities celebrate them, honor them, elevate them, not through legal commendation, through social recognition, through respect earned in crisis, through reputation built on actions rather than words. The economic impact is catastrophic. Billions in damages, businesses destroyed, property stolen, jobs lost, insurance companies refuse to pay. No coverage for purge-related losses. Policies explicitly excluded governmental actions. Millions of people financially ruined with no recourse, no compensation, no help, just loss. But some people made fortunes. Looted goods worth millions. Stolen assets never recovered. Wealth acquired through violence and chaos. When laws returned, they kept it. Proving theft during legal period is impossible. Recovering goods is unlikely. The rich got richer. The poor got poorer. Wealth concentrated upward. Same pattern as always. Just accelerated. Just more visible. Psychologists and sociologists study the data obsessively. What did humans do when consequences disappeared? What does it reveal about human nature, about society, about civilization itself? The results are complex and contradictory. Approximately 70% of people did nothing, stayed home, hid, survived, did not exploit, did not attack, just endured. This is important. Most humans didn't become monsters. Most people remained fundamentally decent, even without external enforcement. Most stayed good when being good was optional. This is hopeful. This suggests morality isn't purely external. Something internal persists. About 20% actively helped others, risked safety to protect neighbors, strangers, community, chose compassion over self-preservation, chose connection over isolation, chose helping over hiding. This is humanity's best. Not everyone, not most, but enough. Enough to matter, enough to save lives, enough to maintain hope. Approximately 10% caused most damage: violence, theft, chaos, destruction. This minority created majority of harm, not evenly distributed, highly concentrated, small number of actors, large amount of damage. Classic distribution: most people good, some neutral, few terrible. But that few is enough to create catastrophe, enough to traumatize communities, enough to kill innocents. The question becomes, what did we learn about ourselves, about society, about human nature, about civilization? The answers are uncomfortable, complex, important. We learned laws aren't tyranny. They're protection. They're collective agreements about coexistence. They're not imposed from outside to oppress. They're created from inside to protect. Remove them, and we're desperate to restore them. Not because we want oppression, because we need structure, because we recognize that total freedom is total vulnerability. We learned inequality kills, literally kills. The wealthy survived through purchase protection. The poor died through forced exposure. Resources equal survival. Poverty equals danger. This was always true. The purge made it visible, made it undeniable, made it impossible to rationalize or excuse. We learned community matters more than law. Neighborhoods with strong social bonds survived. Neighborhoods without them collapsed. Connection protected better than legal structure. Relationships mattered more than regulations. Trust saved more lives than police. This is the most important lesson, the most actionable, the most ignored. We learned most people are fundamentally decent. Given choice between helping and hurting, most choose helping. Most stay good without enforcement. Laws don't make us moral. Laws punish immoral. Remove laws and most remain moral anyway. This is hopeful. This suggests something good at human core, something that persists without external pressure. But we learned a small percentage of humans are genuinely dangerous. Always were, always will be. Just waiting for permission, waiting for opportunity, waiting for consequences to disappear. Laws restrain them. Remove laws, and they act. They're minority, but they're devastating. And no amount of community or goodwill stops them. Only force stops them. Only threat stops them. Only consequences stop them. We learn civilization is choice. Fragile choice. Daily choice. Choice requiring constant effort. Not natural. Not inevitable. Not guaranteed. Chosen. maintained through collective will. The Purge proved this. 24 hours without choosing civilization, and it nearly collapsed. Just 24 hours. That's how fragile it is. That's how much effort it requires. That's how important our daily choices are. The permanent change. Months later, society looks normal, surface level. Cities rebuilt, stores reopened, life continues. But underneath, everything's different, can never be the same. The Purge revealed too much, changed too much, broke too much. Communities that survive together are stronger. Bonds forged in crisis, trust proven in fire. They help each other now, not from obligation, from genuine connection. The crisis created relationships that laws never could. These communities are better than before, different, deeper, more real. Communities that fragmented stay broken, trust destroyed in crisis, relationships severed in trauma. People moved away, social bonds dissolved, physical structures remain, social structures gone. These places are worse than before, hollowed, traumatized, dead in ways that matter more than physical death. Individuals carry the weight differently. Some are stronger, learned they're capable of more than they thought, braver, more moral, more connected. Their self-concept improved. They proved something to themselves. They'll carry that strength forward. Others are broken, saw darkness in others, in themselves, did things they can't forgive, witnessed things they can't forget, survived but damaged, functioning but fractured. They'll carry that weight forever, some through therapy, some through coping mechanisms, some through slow healing, all through permanent change. The political aftermath is predictable and useless. Debates about why it happened, who's responsible, how to prevent repetition, arguments about human nature, about necessary constraints, about proper balance between freedom and safety. Everyone has opinions, nobody has answers. The debates continue. The solutions don't emerge. Some argue the Purge proved humans need laws, need structure, need enforcement. Remove them and we collapse. We're not civilized naturally. We're civilized through threat, through punishment, through fear. This view sees humans as fundamentally bad, requiring external control. Without it, we reveal true nature, which is selfish, violent, destructive. Others argue the opposite. The Purge proved most humans are decent. Most helped, most survived, most chose good. Laws aren't what make us moral. We're moral naturally. Laws just punish exceptions. This view sees humans as fundamentally good, capable of self-governance. Civilization emerges from internal morality, not external force. Both are right, both are wrong. Humans are complicated. Some need external enforcement, some don't. Most are contextual. Good in some situations, bad in others. Depends on pressure, depends on circumstances, depends on who's watching, depends on who we choose to be. Simple narratives fail. Complex reality persists. The real lesson isn't about laws or human nature or political philosophy. It's about community, about connection, about social bonds being more protective than legal structures, about knowing your neighbors mattering more than knowing the law, about relationships providing safety that regulations can't. This lesson is clear. This lesson is actionable. This lesson is mostly ignored. Because building community requires effort, requires investment, requires vulnerability, requires time. Easier to rely on law, on police, on external enforcement. Harder to build relationships, to create trust, to maintain connection. But the Purge proved it. Proved community matters more. Proved relationships protect better. Proved humanity survives through cooperation, not coercion. Most people are good. Not all. Not always, not without exception, but most, in most situations. Given choice, we choose good, choose helping, choose compassion, choose connection, even when it's risky, even when it costs, even when we don't have to. That's the truth. That's the hope. That's what the Purge proved, despite the horror. The exceptions are terrifying. The violence is real. The danger is genuine. The trauma is permanent. Don't romanticize the Purge. Don't minimize the horror. Don't forget the cost. It's catastrophic, it's devastating, it's evil, but it's also revealing. About capabilities, about choices, about humanity. We see ourselves completely, without filters, without comfortable lies, without the structure that lets us avoid hard truths. And what we see is complicated, capable of incredible good and terrible evil. The difference is choice, our choice. Every moment, every situation, every opportunity. Who are we when nobody's forcing us to be good? Most of us are still good, not perfect, not always, but fundamentally decent, fundamentally human, fundamentally choosing connection over chaos. That's the answer. That's the truth. That's what happens when everything's legal for 24 hours. We learn who we are, and most of us are better than we feared. Not as good as we hoped, but better than we feared, and that's enough. That's always been enough. That's what lets us rebuild, return, recover, continue. Because underneath chaos, underneath violence, underneath horror, there's still humanity, still decency, still choice, still hope, always hope. What would you do? Who would you be? Would you help or hurt, protect or exploit? Would you discover strength or weakness? Would you reveal goodness or darkness? Would you be the person you hope you are or someone you didn't know existed? Think about it. Because the Purge reveals truth. About society, about humanity, about you. And truth is complicated. Truth is uncomfortable. Truth is necessary. We can't grow without truth. Can't improve without understanding. Can't become better without seeing clearly what we are. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do in 24 hours without laws? Would you stay hidden or would you help others? Would you take what you want or protect what you have? And more importantly, what does your answer reveal about who you are right now?